The fuel station floated alone in the darkness of space, a tiny dot of light against the infinite black. Marcus Webb guided his old cargo ship toward it, watching the fuel gauge blink red. Empty. Almost empty. He had been pushing his luck for the last 3 hours, and luck was running out fast. The station was called Last Stop, and the name fit perfectly. After this, there was nothing but the Void Belt, a stretch of space so dangerous that even pirates avoided it. Marcus had no choice, though. The colony on Karis 7 needed medical supplies, and he was the only hauler desperate enough to take the job for what they could pay. His ship groaned as he brought it down on the landing pad. The metal beneath him was old and scarred, marked by 1,000 other desperate landings. Marcus climbed out of his seat, feeling every one of his 43 years in his bones. 3 months of hauling cheap cargo across the frontier was wearing him down. The station was quiet when he stepped outside. Too quiet. Most stations had at least a few other ships, some crew members walking around, maybe a maintenance bot or two. Last Stop had nothing, just empty landing pads and the hum of the fuel pumps in the thin atmosphere dome that covered the station. Marcus walked to his ship's fuel port and connected the pump. The price made him wince. Highway robbery, but what choice did he have? He started the fuel flowing and leaned against his ship, pulling out a photo from his jacket pocket. His daughter Sarah smiled back at him from the creased image. 13 years old now. He had missed her last birthday because of a job on the other side of the sector. He was putting the photo back when the shadow passed overhead. Marcus looked up fast, his hand going to the small pistol on his hip. The shadow was huge, bigger than his ship, bigger than anything that should be flying. It moved across the dome of the station, blocking out the stars. Then it fell. The creature hit the landing pad 50 meters away with a sound like thunder. The whole station shook. Marcus stumbled, grabbing onto his ship to stay upright. Dust and debris flew everywhere. The fuel pump sparked and died, and emergency lights started flashing red. When the dust cleared, Marcus saw it. A dragon. Not the fairy tale kind from old Earth stories. This was a Dracilian, one of the ancient starfarers that humanity had met 20 years ago when they pushed deeper into the galaxy. The creature was massive, easily 30 meters from nose to tail. Its scales were a dull bronze color, cracked and damaged. Its wings, huge membranous things that could catch solar winds and ride them between stars, were torn and bleeding. One of its legs was bent at a wrong angle. Marcus had seen Dracilians before, but only from a distance. They were proud creatures, powerful and dangerous. They traveled the stars alone or in small groups they called choirs. They never came to human stations. They never asked humans for anything. The dragon's head lifted slowly. Its eye, as big as Marcus's head, focused on him. The eye was a deep amber color, but the light in it was fading. The creature was dying. Marcus should have run. Every instinct screamed at him to get back in his ship and go. Dracelians were unpredictable. When they were hurt, they were deadly. But Marcus had never been good at doing the smart thing. He took a step toward the dragon. The creature's mouth opened. Smoke drifted out, and Marcus could see the glow of fire deep in its throat. For a moment, he thought it would burn him. Instead, it spoke. The voice was like grinding rocks, rough and painful. The words were in Galactic Standard, the common language most species used for trade. Please. That one word stopped Marcus cold. Dracelians never said please. They never begged. They would rather die than show weakness to another species. Marcus took another step closer. What happened to you? The dragon's eye closed for a moment, then opened again. Vorantines taken. 3 cycles. Escaped. Each word seemed to cost the creature enormous effort. Marcus felt his blood run cold. The Vorantines. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They dealt in bioweapons, in slavery, in things that made decent people sick. If the Vorantines had this dragon for 3 cycles, that was 15 years in human time. What do you need? Marcus asked. The dragon tried to move to turn, showing Marcus its back. There, along its spine, Marcus saw something that made his stomach turn. A device, metallic and organic at the same time, was attached to the dragon's neural spine. It pulsed with a sickly green light, and Marcus could see tendrils of it buried deep into the dragon's flesh. Cannot remove, the dragon said. Tried dying faster. Need help, please. Marcus moved closer, his hauler instincts kicking in. He had spent 20 years fixing broken things, jury-rigging solutions with whatever he had on hand. He walked around the dragon carefully, studying the device. It was Vorantine work, no question. The device was alive somehow, part machine and part something else. It had roots that went deep into the dragon's spine, into its brain. This was how they controlled the creatures they enslaved. This was how they turned proud Drakelians into weapons. How long do we have? Marcus asked. 6 hours, maybe less. Device has failsafe. Kills me if removed wrong. Kills me if left alone too long after escape. Marcus pulled out his datapad and started scanning the device. The readings made no sense. The technology was beyond anything he had seen before. Any proper medical facility would need weeks to figure this out, and even then they might not succeed. I'm just a hauler, Marcus said. I fix engines and patch hull breaches. I'm not a doctor. The dragon's eye found him again. You are human. Humans fix impossible things. Heard stories, desperate, your last hope. Marcus thought about Sarah. If he died here, she would have no one. His ex-wife had passed away 2 years ago. Sarah was staying with his sister, waiting for him to make enough money to bring her out to the frontier. But looking at the dragon, at the desperation in that huge amber eye, Marcus knew he could not walk away. Okay, he said. I'll try. But I need you to trust me, and I need you to stay awake. Can you do that? Name is Kervinth, the dragon said. Of the Ember Choir, we'll trust. We'll try. Marcus ran back to his ship and grabbed his toolkit. He also grabbed the first aid kit from the emergency locker, the plasma cutter he used for repairs, and every scanner he had. It was not much, but it would have to be enough. When he came back, Kervinth was still conscious, but barely. Marcus set up his work light and got his first good look at the device. All right, Kervinth, he said, pulling on his work gloves. Let's see if we can get this thing off you. And while I work, you're going to talk to me. You're going to stay awake, deal? Deal, the dragon whispered. Marcus powered up his plasma cutter and began to work. The night was going to be long and the odds were terrible. But Marcus Webb had never been the kind of man who gave up on someone who asked for help, even if that someone was a 30-meter dragon who could probably eat him in one bite. Marcus set up his work light to shine directly on the device attached to Kervinth's spine. Up close, it looked even worse than he had thought. The metallic parts were fused with organic tissue in ways that should not be possible. Green fluid oozed from the connection points, and the whole thing pulsed like a sick heartbeat. Tell me what happened, Marcus said as he pulled out his medical scanner. He needed to keep Kervinth talking, keep her conscious. How did the Vorantines catch you? Kervinth's voice was weak but steady. They used bait. Captured my clutch sister, Ceravix, sent distress signal in our song language. I came to help. Was ambushed. 20 Vorantine ships waiting. Marcus ran the scanner over the device, trying to make sense of the readings. What's a clutch sister? Born from same star nest. Closest bond for my kind. Would die for her. Almost did. The scanner beeped, showing Marcus a 3-dimensional map of the device. It had 12 main connection points buried deep in Kervinth's neural tissue. Each connection point had smaller tendrils spreading out like roots. If he cut wrong, Kervinth would die. If he pulled too hard, Kervinth would die. If he took too long, the failsafe would trigger and Kervinth would die anyway. What did they make you do? Marcus asked quietly. There was a long silence. Then Kervinth spoke, and her voice was filled with shame. Attacked colonies. Destroyed ships. Fought others of my kind who tried to free us. Could not stop. Device controlled body, controlled fire, controlled everything. Was prisoner in own flesh. Marcus felt anger burning in his chest. He had seen a lot of evil in the galaxy during his years hauling cargo. But this was something special. The Vorantines had not just enslaved these creatures. They had turned them into weapons against their own people. How many? He asked. How many Drakelians do they have? When I escaped, 43. Maybe more now. They hunt my kind like prey. Marcus chose the smallest connection point and aimed his plasma cutter at it. This is going to hurt. Ready? Pain is old friend now. Do what must be done. Marcus activated the cutter at its lowest setting. The beam was thin as a hair, precise enough to cut without damaging surrounding tissue. He worked slowly, carefully burning through the metallic tendril where it connected to Kervinth's spine. The dragon made no sound, but Marcus felt the muscles beneath his feet tense. The scales got hotter and he had to step back for a moment. Talk to me, Marcus said. Tell me about your people. Tell me about flying between stars. Kervinth's breathing was labored, but she spoke. We are old. Older than most species in galaxy. We learned to ride solar winds before your kind learned to make fire. We sing in the radiation storms of neutron stars. We dance in the coronas of young suns. Marcus finished cutting the first connection point free. 1 down, 11 to go. Green fluid leaked from the wound, and he quickly sprayed it with medical foam from his first aid kit. It would have to do. Sounds beautiful, Marcus said, moving to the second connection point. It is. But we are proud. Too proud. When Vorentines came with their weapons, we thought we could fight alone. Thought asking for help was weakness. Now my people die in chains because of pride. Marcus worked on the second connection point. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. Each connection was different, each one requiring a slightly different approach. The device was learning too, adjusting its defenses as he worked. It was smart, which made it even more dangerous. Humans are good at asking for help, Marcus said. Sometimes it's the only way to survive. Yes, I see this now. Your kind spread across galaxy, not because you are strongest or fastest. You spread because you make friends, because you help each other. The second connection point came free, then the third. Marcus was finding a rhythm now, but he was also getting tired. His eyes burned from the clothes work and his back ached from bending over. Tell me about your home, Marcus said. Tell me about the Ember Choir. Kervinth's voice grew softer, almost wistful. We nest in the rings of gas giant, far from here. 47 of us in the choir before Vorentines came. We sing the old songs together. Songs that date back to when Galaxy was young. Each voice is unique, each adds to harmony. Marcus worked on the fourth connection point, then the fifth. He was halfway done now, but the device was starting to react. The green light pulsed faster and warning symbols appeared on his scanner. It knows what you are doing, Kervinth said. Failsafe is activating. How long? 2 hours. Maybe less. Marcus worked faster, but he could not rush this. One mistake and it would all be over. His hands were shaking now from exhaustion and stress. He stopped and took a deep breath. Why did you come to me? He asked. There are other ships, other stations. This was closest. And I knew humans sometimes help. Heard story of human who saved Metherian hive mother from collapsing mine. Another who shared food with starving Keltris refugees. Your kind is strange. You help even when it costs you. The sixth connection point came free. Then the seventh. Marcus was 2/3 done, but the device was fighting back now. Small electrical shocks zapped his fingers through his gloves. The green light was almost blinding. I have a daughter, Marcus said, not sure why he was sharing this. Sarah, she's 13. I haven't seen her in 6 months because I'm always taking jobs like this, trying to make enough money to give her a better life. You are good father. Sacrifice for young is sign of strong species. I don't know about that. Sometimes I think I'm just running away, you know? Her mother died and I didn't know how to be there for Sarah without messing it up. So I run cargo across the galaxy instead. The eighth connection point resisted. Marcus had to cut deeper, and Kervinth groaned in pain. The dragon scales were glowing now, heat radiating off them in waves. Marcus had to work in short bursts, stepping back to cool down between cuts. When this is done, go back to her, Kervinth said. Life is short, even for long-lived species like mine. Do not waste it running. The eighth connection point came free, then the ninth. Marcus was so close now, but the device was pulsing wildly, the green light strobing. His scanner screamed warnings. The failsafe was engaging. We're running out of time, Marcus said. I know. Keep going. Marcus attacked the 10th connection point, cutting as fast as he dared. The device fought him every millimeter, sending shocks through his tools, heating up until his gloves started to smoke. But Marcus had been fixing broken things his whole life. He knew machines, knew how they thought, knew their tricks. The 10th connection point came free. 2 more, he said, moving to the 11th. But as he positioned his plasma cutter, the device did something unexpected. It sent a massive surge of energy through Kervinth's nervous system. The dragon convulsed, nearly throwing Marcus off her back. The scales beneath him became burning hot. No, Marcus shouted. Stay with me. Kervinth's breathing stopped. The light in her eye began to fade. The failsafe was activating early. Marcus had minutes at most. He stared at the device, his mind racing. He could not override it. He did not have the knowledge or the tools. But maybe he did not need to override it. Maybe he could trick it instead. Marcus grabbed his datapad and pulled up the station's old logs. Last stop had been around for 30 years, serving as a quarantine checkpoint during the Vorentine plague outbreak of 2831. Those logs would have Vorentine command codes, protocols for the bioweapons they had used back then. His fingers flew across the datapad. There, A maintenance code, used to pause Vorentine biodevices during treatment. It was old, maybe too old, but it was all he had. Marcus grabbed his ship's signal transponder and programmed it with the code. He aimed it at the device and activated it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the green light stopped pulsing. The device went still. Kervinth gasped, her eye flying open. "What did you do?" "Tricked it," Marcus said, his heart pounding. "It thinks it's being maintained, not removed. But it won't last long. Hold still." He cut through the last 2 connection points as fast as he could. The device was still fooled, passive and quiet. 11, 12, done. Marcus grabbed the main body of the device and pulled. It came free with a wet tearing sound. Green fluid sprayed everywhere, and Kervinth roared in pain and relief. Marcus threw the device as far as he could. It hit the ground 10 meters away and lay there, still pulsing its sick green light. Then it started beeping. Fast, urgent. "Run!" Kervinth shouted. But before Marcus could move, the device exploded into light, sending a signal straight up through the atmosphere dome and out into space. A distress beacon, calling for help, calling for the Vorentines. The signal beam shot into space like a spear of green light, punching through the atmosphere dome and disappearing into the stars. Marcus stood frozen, watching it go, his mind trying to process what had just happened. "How long?" he asked quietly. Kervinth pulled herself up on shaking legs. The wounds on her back where the device had been attached were already starting to close, the dragon's natural healing taking over. Vorentines travel fast. If they have ship nearby, maybe 1 hour, maybe less. Marcus ran to the station's control room, his boots pounding on the metal floor. The control room was small and dusty, clearly not used much. He activated the long-range scanners and waited for them to warm up. The ancient equipment hummed and beeped, taking forever to boot up. When the scanner finally came online, Marcus's blood turned to ice. There was a ship at the edge of the system. Big, moving fast. "Coming straight toward last stop, 1 hour," Marcus said. "We have 1 hour." He ran back outside to where Kervinth was testing her wings, spreading them carefully to check the damage. The tears were bad, but not as bad as Marcus had feared. Still, there was no way the dragon could fly, not yet. "Can you fight?" Marcus asked. Kervinth turned her massive head to look at him. Even weakened, even hurt, she was still terrifying. "I can breathe fire. I can use claws and teeth, but I am weak. 3 cycles of slavery, then escape, then this. I am not at full strength." Marcus looked at his ship. A hauler, built for cargo, not combat. It had 1-point defense cannon meant for shooting asteroids out of the way. Against a Vorentine warship, it would be like throwing rocks at a mountain. The station had minimal defenses, too. A few automated turrets that probably had not been fired in years. Some shields that might hold for a few minutes if he was lucky. They were trapped, outgunned, and out of time. Marcus sat down on the landing pad and put his head in his hands. He had saved Kervinth, gotten that horrible device off her, and for what? So they could both die when the Vorentines showed up? He felt something warm against his back. Kervinth had laid down beside him, curling her long body in a protective circle around him. It was almost like being inside a warm cave sheltered from the cold of space. "I'm sorry," Kervinth said. "You saved me. You should not die for that." "Yeah, well, I'm not dead yet," Marcus said, but he did not sound convincing even to himself. They sat in silence for a while. Marcus could hear Kervinth's breathing, deep and slow. The dragon's scales were warm against his back, not burning hot like before. Just pleasantly warm. "Tell me about Sarah," Kervinth said suddenly. Marcus pulled out the photo again, holding it so the dragon could see. "That's her. Smart as hell. Wants to be a xenobiologist, study alien life. She's always sending me messages about some new species she read about. She would like to meet me, I think." Marcus laughed, despite everything. "Yeah, she would lose her mind. A real Drakelian. She's read every book about your species. What does she know? That you're one of the oldest spacefaring species. That you can survive in vacuum. That you navigate by sensing magnetic fields and gravity waves. That each choir has its own song language that can be heard across light years. Books are correct, but they do not tell everything. They do not tell about joy of riding solar storm, about taste of comet ice, about feeling of singing with choir and having all voices become one." Marcus put the photo back in his pocket. "I wanted to bring her out here, you know. Show her the real galaxy, not just pictures and books. But it's dangerous. I kept telling myself I'd do it when things were safer, when I had more money. There was always an excuse. Excuses are easy. Living is hard. They sat in silence again. Marcus watched the stars, wondering which one hid the Vorentine ship that was coming to kill them, wondering if Sarah would understand why he had tried to help, wondering if she would forgive him for not coming home. Then an idea hit him. Crazy. Impossible. But maybe the only chance they had. The Vorentines want you alive, right? Marcus asked. Yes, we are valuable, rare, hard to capture. They will try to take me, not kill me. And they'll have to get close to do that. Kervinth's eye focused on him. What are you thinking? Marcus stood up and walked to his ship. He patted the hull, the metal warm under his palm. He had owned this hauler for 15 years. Fixed it 1,000 times. It was slow and ugly, but it was his. I'm thinking we give them what they want, Marcus said. We give them you. Sort of. He explained his plan. It was insane. It relied on perfect timing and a dozen things going exactly right. The odds were terrible. Kervinth listened, and when he was done, she made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are crazy human. But I like this plan. It is worthy of a song. They got to work. Marcus programmed his ship's autopilot, setting up a course that would take it straight out from the station, moving erratically like a damaged ship trying to escape. He overrode the safety protocols on the fuel cells, setting them to overload on his command. Not enough to explode immediately, but enough to turn the ship into a bomb if triggered at the right moment. Then came the hard part. Kervinth had to get inside the ship. Even curled up, she barely fit in the cargo bay. Marcus sealed her in and activated the emergency beacon. Remember, he said through the comm system, you have to stay quiet. Minimal life signs. They need to think you're unconscious and helpless. I understand. When do we begin? Marcus checked the scanners. The Vorentine ship was closer now, only 30 minutes away. Now. Time to see if crazy humans can outsmart Vorentine slavers. He launched his ship. It drifted away from the station, wobbling like it was damaged. The autopilot was doing its job perfectly, making the ship look like it was barely under control. Marcus ran back to the control room and sent a broadcast on all frequencies. Mayday, Mayday. This is last stop station. We have a wounded Drakelian aboard a fleeing vessel. Ship is damaged. Pilot is dead. Drakelian is unconscious and dying. Requesting immediate assistance, he did not expect a response, and he did not get one. But he knew the Vorentines had heard. They would investigate. They would want their property back. Sure enough, the Vorentine ship changed course, angling to intercept Marcus's hauler. It was moving fast now, eager. Marcus watched on the scanners, his finger hovering over the detonator for his ship's fuel cells. Too early and the plan failed. Too late and Kervinth could be captured before she could act. The Vorentine ship closed in. 5 kilometers. 4. 3. Marcus could see it now with his eyes, a dark shape against the stars. It looked like a scorpion, all angles and sharp edges. A tractor beam shot out from the Vorentine ship, locking onto Marcus's hauler. They were pulling it in, not destroying it. Perfect, Kervinth, Marcus said into the comm. You ready? Ready, can feel their beam. Can feel them thinking they have won. 2 kilometers. The tractor beam was pulling the hauler into the Vorentine ship's hangar bay. Marcus could see the bay doors opening like a mouth ready to swallow his ship whole. What are you waiting for? Kervinth asked. Marcus was counting, waiting. The hauler entered the hangar bay. The doors started to close behind it. Containment protocols would be activating. Force fields. Security measures. All designed to keep Kervinth trapped. Now, Marcus shouted. Through the cameras on his ship, he saw Kervinth explode out of the cargo bay. Her wings spread wide, filling the hangar. Her mouth opened and fire poured out. Not normal fire, solar fire. The ancient weapon of the Drakelians, hot enough to melt steel, bright enough to blind. At the same moment, Marcus triggered the fuel cell overload. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. Marcus's ship became a miniature sun for just a moment. The overloaded fuel cells releasing all their energy at once. The hangar bay became an inferno. Kervinth, protected by her natural resistance to heat and fire, rode the explosion like a wave, using it to amplify her own flames. Through the scanners, Marcus watched the Vorentine ship stagger. Atmosphere vented from the destroyed hangar bay. Internal explosions rippled through the hull as the fire spread. Emergency lights flashed across the alien ship's surface. Then Kervinth burst out through the wreckage, her wings catching the solar wind. She was flying, really flying, for the first time since Marcus had met her. Even wounded, even tired, she was magnificent. The Vorentine ship tried to fire its weapons, but they were offline. Tried to move, but the engines were damaged. It hung in space, crippled and helpless, its distress beacons screaming into the void. Kervinth flew back to the station, landing on the pad with much more grace than before. Smoke rose from her scales, and there were new burns on her wings, but she was alive. She was free. Marcus ran out to meet her, and this time he was laughing. "We did it! We actually did it! Yes, your crazy plan worked. You are insane human, Marcus Webb. But you are brave, insane human." They watched the Vorentine ship together as patrol vessels began appearing at the edge of the system, responding to all the chaos. Justice was coming for the slavers, finally. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. What they had done here would ripple out across the galaxy. The question was, what would those ripples bring? The patrol vessels arrived within an hour, their blue and white hulls marking them as part of the Frontier Security Force. 3 ships, all armed, all bristling with weapons and sensors. They surrounded the crippled Vorentine vessel, making sure it could not escape or self-destruct. A message came through to the station's comm system. "Last stop station, this is FSF Vigilant. Please identify yourself and explain the situation." Marcus keyed the comm. "This is Marcus Webb, civilian hauler. I've got a long story for you." The next few hours were a blur. Officers came to the station, asked 1,000 questions, took statements and scans and photos. They were particularly interested in the remains of the device Marcus had removed from Kervinth, the pieces scattered across the landing pad. A medical team tried to examine Kervinth, but she refused. "I will heal on my own. My kind always has. I do not need poking and prodding." The officers were nervous around her, Marcus noticed. They kept their distance, hands near their weapons. Even wounded, even obviously weak, Kervinth was still a Dracelian. Still dangerous. Captain Torres, a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, seemed to be in charge. She listened to Marcus's story with an expression that shifted between disbelief and anger. "You destroyed your own ship," she said flatly. "Yes, ma'am." "And attacked a Vorentine vessel with no backup, no proper weapons, and no authorization." "Yes, ma'am." "You're either the bravest fool I've ever met or the stupidest." "I haven't decided which," Marcus shrugged. "I've been called worse." Captain Torres turned to Kervinth. "And you? The Dracelians have been fighting the Vorentines for 2 decades, and in all that time your people never asked for help. Why now?" Kervinth's voice was quiet but steady. "Because we were dying. Because pride is cold comfort when your people are enslaved. Because one human showed me that asking for help is not weakness. It is wisdom." The captain sighed and rubbed her temples. "This is going to cause a political nightmare, you know that? The Dracelians are neutral. They don't take sides. They don't make alliances. And now we have one of you here, rescued by a human, telling us that dozens more are enslaved." 43 when I escaped," Kervinth said. "Maybe more now." One of the officers, a young man with nervous hands, spoke up. "Captain, the Vorentine ship's crew is asking to surrender. They want to negotiate." "Tell them they'll get a fair trial," Torres said. "But they're not negotiating anything." She turned back to Marcus and Kervinth. "Here's what's going to happen. We're taking that Vorentine ship to the nearest major base for investigation. Every piece of technology on board, every file in their computers, everything. If what you're saying is true, if they have been enslaving Dracelians, we need evidence. Real solid evidence." "What about me?" Marcus asked. "You're coming with us. You're a witness. And honestly, I want to keep an eye on you before you blow up anything else." "And Kervinth?" Torres looked at the dragon for a long moment. "That's not my decision. That's hers." Kervinth stood up, stretching her wings carefully. The tears in the membrane were healing, Marcus saw. Not fully healed, but better. "I must return to my choir. I must tell them what happened here. What Marcus did. What humans can do." "Will they believe you?" Torres asked. "Some will. Some will not. My people are old and set in their ways. But they will listen. And when they see the evidence from Vorentine ship, when they understand the scope of what has been done to us, they will have to choose. Keep fighting alone and die slowly, or accept help and maybe survive." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He had known Kervinth for less than a day, but the thought of her leaving felt wrong somehow. They had been through something together, something that created a bond. "How long before you can fly?" he asked. "Days, maybe a week." "My wings heal fast, but they need time." Torres nodded. Then you'll stay with us until you're ready. We have a medical bay on the Vigilant, not exactly designed for dragons, but we'll make it work." The next 3 days passed in a strange limbo. Marcus stayed on the Vigilant, sleeping in a tiny cabin and eating in the mess hall with the crew. Everyone wanted to hear his story, wanted to know what it was like to work on a live Dracelian, what it was like to fight the Vorentines. He kept telling them it was not that impressive, that he had just done what needed doing. But they looked at him like he was a hero, and it made him uncomfortable. Kervinth stayed in the cargo bay, which was the only space big enough for her. Marcus visited her every day, bringing her food that the ship's cook had prepared. Turns out dragons liked their meat very rare, almost raw. They talked a lot during those days. Kervinth told Marcus about her life before capture, about flying with her choir through the corona of a blue giant star, about the songs they sang that could be heard across parsecs. Marcus told her about Earth, about oceans and forests and cities full of people who had never seen the stars up close. On the third day, Captain Torres called them both to her office. She looked tired, like she had not slept in days. "We've been through the Vorentine ship's computers," she said. "It's worse than we thought. Much worse." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed a star map with dozens of red dots scattered across several sectors. These are confirmed Vorentine slave facilities, each one holding between 10 and 50 Dracelians. Based on their records, they've been doing this for 30 years. Marcus felt sick. That's hundreds of dragons. "We estimate between 400 and 600 total," Torres said. "They've been systematically hunting Dracelians, using them as weapons, selling them to the highest bidder. It's the biggest slavery operation we've found in decades." Kervinth was perfectly still, but Marcus could feel the rage radiating from her. The temperature in the room rose several degrees. "What are you doing about it?" Kervinth asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "We've sent the evidence to the Galactic Council. We're pushing for a full investigation and military action. But it takes time. Politics, votes, committees. You know how it works." "My people do not have time," Kervinth said. Torres met the dragon's gaze without flinching. "I know, that's why I'm telling you this. You need to convince your choir. Convince your people to ask for help officially. If the Dracelians request assistance, we can move faster. We can organize a proper rescue operation. And if we do not ask, if pride still rules us, then it'll take months, maybe years to get approval for action. And by then, how many more will be captured? How many will die?" Kervinth turned to Marcus. "What do you think?" Marcus blinked. "Me? I'm just a hauler. You are the human who saved me, who showed me that asking for help is not shameful. Your opinion matters." Marcus thought about Sarah, about all the times he had been too proud to ask for help, too stubborn to admit he needed someone. It had cost him years with his daughter, years he could never get back. "I think," he said slowly, "that being smart is better than being proud. I think saving lives is more important than saving face. And I think if your people are dying, and someone is offering to help, you'd be crazy not to take it." Kervinth was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I will go to my choir. I will tell them everything. I will show them that humans are worthy allies, that asking for help is not weakness. But I cannot promise they will listen." "That's all we can ask," Torres said. That night Marcus could not sleep. He lay in his cabin, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. He had come to Last Stop just to refuel, just another boring job on a boring route. Now he had destroyed his ship, fought slavers, and maybe changed the course of history. His datapad beeped. A message from Sarah. "Dad, where are you? You were supposed to check in 3 days ago. I'm getting worried. Please let me know you're okay." Marcus typed a reply. "I'm fine, sweetie. Something came up, but I'm okay. Actually, I met someone. A dragon, a real one. I'll tell you all about it when I see you. Which will be soon. I promise. Love you." He hit send and closed his eyes. When this was over, when Kervinth was healed and gone, he was going back to Earth. He was going to see his daughter. He was done running. The next morning, Captain Torres announced that they were moving to the Vigilance home base, Station Harmony. It was a major hub, big enough to handle the political fallout from everything that had happened. Kervinth was strong enough to fly now. Her wings were still healing, still had scars, but they would hold. She stood on the landing bay ready to leave, ready to return to her people. Marcus stood with her, feeling like he should say something profound, something worthy of the moment. But all he could manage was, "Good luck." Kervinth lowered her massive head until her eye was level with Marcus's face. You gave me freedom, Marcus Webb, you gave me hope. There is a tradition among my people. When one saves another's life, a bond is formed. A debt that can never be fully repaid. You don't owe me anything, Marcus said, I know. That is why I give this freely. Kervinth reached out with one claw and pressed it gently to Marcus's chest. Heat flowed into him, not burning, but warm and alive. He gasped as light surrounded them, golden and pure. It lasted only a moment, but when it faded, Marcus felt different, stronger, more awake. What did you do? He whispered. I gave you a piece of my fire, a spark of starlight. It will burn in you always, keeping you warm, keeping you safe, and through it I will always know where you are. Will always be able to find you. You are part of my choir now, Marcus Webb. The first human to ever be so honored. Then 2 weeks passed. 2 long weeks where Marcus lived on Station Harmony, gave statements to investigators, talked to lawyers and politicians and military officers. Everyone wanted a piece of his story. Everyone had questions. The media found out, of course. Within days, Marcus's face was on news feeds across the galaxy. Hauler saves Dragon, exposes slavery ring. Human and Dracilian team up against Vorentine slavers. The man who changed everything. Marcus hated it. He was not a hero. He had just helped someone who needed help. But try telling that to the reporters who camped outside his quarters. Sarah called him every day. She had seen the news, seen her father's face everywhere. She was proud, she said, but also scared. Dad, you could have died. You did die almost. Don't do that again. I won't, he promised. Then added, probably. She laughed, and the sound made his chest ache. He missed her so much. Captain Torres kept him updated on the situation. The Galactic Council was moving, but slowly. The evidence from the Vorentine ship had caused a scandal. Politicians were calling for action, but others were urging caution. The Vorentines were a powerful faction, had allies, had money and influence. Bureaucracy, Torres said with disgust. We have proof of hundreds enslaved, and they're still arguing about jurisdiction and proper procedure. What about Kervinth? Marcus asked. Have we heard from her? Nothing. She reached her choir's territory a week ago, but there's been no communication since. Dracelians don't exactly send emails. Marcus touched his chest, feeling the warmth there, the spark Kervinth had given him. It pulsed softly, steady as a heartbeat. She was alive. He could feel it, but beyond that he knew nothing. He was going crazy waiting. So when Torres found him in the station's observation deck, staring out at the stars, he knew something had changed just by the look on her face. They're coming, she said. Who? The Dracilians. All of them. Every choir within 10 light years. Kervinth convinced them. They're coming here to Station Harmony, to formally request alliance with humanity. Marcus stood up so fast he nearly fell over. When? 1 hour. We just picked them up on long-range scanners. Marcus, there are over 200 dragons heading our way. This is unprecedented. Dracelians never gather in groups this large. Never. The station went into organized chaos. Diplomats scrambled to prepare. Military officers worried about security. The station commander cleared the main docking area and set up every camera and recorder they had. Marcus stood in the observation deck with Torres and a dozen other officers, watching the scanners as the dragons approached. They flew in formation, wings spread, reflecting the light of the nearby star. It was the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen. They landed in the central plaza, one after another, filling the space with bronze and gold and silver scales. Some were larger than Kervinth, ancient and scarred. Others were smaller, younger. But they all moved with the same grace, the same terrible beauty. Kervinth was among them, and Marcus felt the spark in his chest burn brighter when he saw her. She looked stronger now, healthier. Her wings were fully healed, her scales gleaming. The station commander, Administrator Chen, stepped forward to greet them. She was a small woman, barely came up to the knee of the smallest dragon, but she stood tall and unafraid. Welcome to Station Harmony, she said, her voice carried by speakers across the plaza. We are honored by your presence. The largest dragon, an enormous creature with scales like hammered gold and eyes like dying suns, stepped forward. I am Thornaxis, elder of the Ember Choir and speaker for the assembled. We have come to speak of alliance, of cooperation, of survival, Chen nodded. We're ready to listen. For 10,000 cycles, my people have flown alone. We have prided ourselves on our independence, our strength, our refusal to need others. This pride has been our greatest virtue. Thornaxus paused, and his voice grew heavy. It has also been our greatest weakness. He turned, and his gaze found Marcus through the observation window. Despite the distance, despite the layers of glass and metal between them, Marcus felt seen. A human named Marcus Webb freed one of our own. He asked for nothing. He risked everything. He showed us that alliance is not weakness, that asking for help is not shame, that sometimes the strongest thing we can do is admit we cannot stand alone. Thornaxus turned back to Chen. The Vorentines have enslaved 437 of our people. They have turned our siblings into weapons. They have made a mockery of our strength. We have fought them for 2 decades and lost ground every year. We were dying slowly, stubbornly alone. The dragon's voice rose, filling the plaza. No more. We come to you, humanity, and we ask for help. Help us free our enslaved. Help us fight those who would chain the stars themselves. And in return, we offer our alliance, our friendship, our songs and our fire. The plaza was silent. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat, could feel the warmth in his chest pulsing in time with Kervinth's presence. Chen looked up at the massive dragon. The Galactic Council has been debating this issue. Politics have slowed everything down. But you're asking humanity directly? Yes, because it was a human who showed us the way. Because humans understand what it means to fight against impossible odds. Because you are a young species, still hungry, still foolish enough to believe in doing the right thing even when it costs everything. Chen smiled. You say that like it's a good thing. It is. The galaxy has too many who are old and cautious. Too many who calculate every risk, who measure every cost. Humans still act from the heart. We need that now. Torres leaned over to Marcus. This is it. This is the moment that changes everything. Chen pulled out a comm device and spoke into it. Get me the Earth government. All of them. Council, assembly, everyone. Tell them we need an emergency session. Tell them it's time to decide what kind of species we want to be. The next 6 hours were a blur of meetings and conferences and arguments. Marcus was pulled into many of them, asked to tell his story over and over. Politicians from Earth and the colonies debated. Military leaders argued about logistics. Diplomats worried about setting precedents. But in the end, it came down to a simple vote. Help the Dracelians or stay neutral and safe. The vote was not even close. Humanity chose to help. 3 days later, Marcus stood in a military briefing room surrounded by officers, pilots, and one very large dragon. Kervinth had insisted on being part of the planning, and no one was brave enough to tell her no. The holographic display showed the locations of the Vorentine slave facilities. There were 12 major sites, each heavily defended. This is going to be a coordinated strike, Admiral Park explained. We're hitting all 12 sites simultaneously. Fast, hard, and precise. We free the Dracelians, destroy the facilities, and get out before the Vorentines can mount a proper response. Timing is everything, Torres added. She had been promoted to lead one of the strike teams. If even one facility gets a warning off, the others will go into lockdown. Marcus studied the map. What about inside information? Do we know the layouts, the security systems? Some, Park said. We've been interrogating the crew from the ship you disabled. They've given us what they can. But we're still going in partially blind. Kervinth made a rumbling sound. I was held in 3 different facilities during my captivity. I know their layouts. I can guide teams through them. We're counting on that, Park said. You and the other freed Dracelians are going to be our guides. But Marcus, you're coming too. Marcus blinked. What? Why? Because you're the one person who has successfully removed one of those control devices. We need you there to help free the others. We'll have medical teams, but you understand how those things work better than anyone. I'm not a soldier, Marcus protested. No, Torres said. You're the man who saved a dragon with nothing but a plasma cutter and stubbornness. We need that. The day of the operation arrived too fast. Marcus found himself on a military transport, wearing borrowed armor that fit badly, carrying a medical kit and tools. Around him were 30 soldiers, all looking calm and professional. Marcus did not feel calm. He felt terrified. Kervinth was flying alongside the transport, visible through the window. She had volunteered to lead the strike on the facility where she had been held. I know every corridor, she had said. Every cell. Every torture chamber. I will burn it all. The 12 strike teams jumped to hyperspace together, traveling to 12 different systems. They would all arrive at the same moment. would all hit their targets within seconds of each other. Marcus checked his equipment for the 100th time. Plasma cutter, medical scanner, foam injectors, everything he had used to save Kerventh, plus some upgrades from the military engineers. 2 minutes to target, the pilot announced. Marcus's hands were shaking. Torres noticed and put a hand on his shoulder. You've got this. You've done it before. I got lucky before. Luck, skill, whatever. We're counting on you. They dropped out of hyperspace above a dark moon. The Vorentine facility was built into the moon's surface, a fortress of metal and stone. Weapon turrets tracked their approach. Go, go, go! Torres shouted.